It is so ridiculous to say that a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global atmospheric temperature is going to be a disaster.
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David. Today we've got a clip here from a psychologist interviewing Justin Trudeau. I've showed you guys a few of these clips back maybe a couple weeks ago, and I've got a couple of them left here. They're quite interesting. One of them is of Justin Trudeau being asked about his Achilles heel as well as imposter syndrome. I should have got to these earlier. After that, we've also got people coming to Canada and dropping hot corals on the beach and burying them in the sand, which is quite the story, as well as a clip of the co-founder of GREENPEACE talking with Jordan Peterson about how the 1.5 degree increase in the global temperature is ridiculous. So let's jump into this. Next up, I got a clip here from this interview where I believe this guy's a psychologist. He's asking him, and he basically, Trudeau talks about his Achilles heel. It's interesting because he's never really talked about what his weakness is.
What do you say to yourself when the criticism feels particularly painful? Is it just, well, that's my avatar they're reacting to, it's not me?
More recently, when I see people really over the top in the kind of the hatred and polarization and toxicity that is just par for the course in so many democracies now. My instant pivot is, okay, so what happened in their lives to lead them to that place? I try to go for a place of empathy.
Oh, this is gross. A place of empathy with so many people sleeping on the streets. This guy blames the world again. This narcissist is so detached from reality.
Of, well, what can I do, even if they'll never give me credit for it, to make sure that their life is less bad? And sometimes I can't imagine how to do it, but other times, like, I have to go to a place of reminding myself, and it's not hard because it's in me. I'm the Prime Minister of 40 million Canadians, not just the millions who voted for me. I'm for everyone, and therefore, no matter how much they dislike me, I still have to try and think about, what I can do to make sure that them or their kids or their community is doing better.
It's 41 million. You brought in 1 million last year. He doesn't even know his own numbers.
And that exercise sort of detaches a little bit from what their actual opinion is of me. It gets harder when it goes to my family or some of my team members, where I'm not as able to detach it, because that's, that you're coming after my people. Come after me all you like. I put my name on a sign. I'm standing here for election. I'm doing it. I'm welcoming it. But for others, it makes it harder.
So there you have it, folks. His Achilles heel is when people criticize his family, his friends, his party members, ones he cares about. Interesting. I still think this guy can't take criticism. I mean, look at the way he acts. He's hiding now. After the St. Paul's thing, he's been hiding. He won't even talk to his caucus. He's not having a big meeting. So next up in this interview, he asks him about imposter syndrome.
One of the risks of surrounding yourself with people you think are smarter than you is that sometimes you feel like an imposter. And you wonder, do I really belong here? Has that affected you over the last 8 years at all?
I was very aware of the imposter syndrome all my life. As a teacher, I kept waiting for someone to knock on the door and say, okay, this was a terrible mistake. We're pulling you. Or, anytime I'm giving a speech on environmental responsibility, I was expecting someone, you never actually finished your graduate studies in environmental geography. What are you doing? I was very aware of that. The first day I walked onto Parliament Hill as an elected MP after what was a very tough election for our party, but it was good for me in 2008. I searched for that imposter syndrome. I said, okay, here it's going to come. And it wasn't there. And for the first time in my life, and I think it was because I worked so hard on the ground for the 2 years to sort of overcome people's name recognition expectations of me. Like, all my opponents then and pretty much since have said, oh, it's just an accident of history that he's in the role he is. He's expecting everyone to vote for him because of his last name, and that'll catch up with him sooner or later, or he won't get elected the first time. And I worked the ground. I went door to door right across the district. I got to know all the different community organizations, and I earned their support in that election. And people actually came out, put a little X beside my name and said, no, we definitely want you to go. And I'm like, okay, People actually chose me through a process of saying, we're trusting you to be our voice in Ottawa, and we're making that choice deliberately. And I'd also run in a very authentic way about who I was and what I was. And I felt that people knew what they were getting when they voted for me in my...
It was all your name, buddy. That's it. This guy thinks he came out from underneath his dad's shadow and it was just all him. What a narcissist. Speaking of imposter syndrome, Trudeau, you are an imposter. You're still an imposter. You're an absolute loser. You're running our country in the ground. You know what you're doing. Just because somebody hasn't come and told him he's an imposter doesn't mean he's not an imposter.
District, and so I didn't feel that imposter syndrome, and I haven't since. I keep saying, look, I will continue to serve. I'll continue to do the best I can and try to do it in as authentic a way as possible, a way that is true to me, with all the strengths and flaws that I have, as any individual does.
Well, what you're describing tracks with the evidence on imposter thoughts, which
I'm so glad to hear
this is
that.
encouraging, right? You would otherwise have to change the way that
Oh, he got really excited about that.
you think, but. Some of the
Because that's what psychologists do so well, to make
Constantly.
people change the way they think.
We do that for a living.
You're
It
so
always works.
successful. Exactly.
Thank you
100%.
for respecting my profession as much as I admire yours, Prime Minister. But I think that in all seriousness, one of the surprising benefits of those imposter thoughts is they create a gap between what you think other people expect of you and what you feel capable of. And that leaves you motivated to close the gap, which you did. Do you ever worry that not feeling like an imposter makes you complacent?
No, there's no ability to be complacent in this job. Not when you're still charged up about it.
I gotta go to Tofino all the time. It charges me up. I eat all the fanciest food. This guy. He wastes so much of our money on his vacations, on his food, on his travel. He is the biggest imposter of a prime minister ever. Can we get a real prime minister, please?
The challenges, particularly in this time, that continue to get thrown at us, all the range of crises that are hitting right now all around the world, but our democracies, but also our countries, combined with all the steady progressive work that we need to do of lifting kids out of poverty and helping with $10 a day child care, and delivering the fight against climate change and creating good jobs through a greener economy, and working with reconciliation with Indigenous people. There are like so many big things we have to keep doing while there's war in Ukraine, conflict in the Middle East, climate change hitting the world, backsliding of democracy.
He mentioned climate change twice, a backsliding of democracy. Oh, geez.
Foreign interference, rise of autocracies. There's all this going on. There's no complacency in this job.
You're describing some of the many things that make this one of the hardest jobs on earth. And it's unbelievable to me that it comes with so little training.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very busy when you got so many scandals running and funneling Canadians' cash into all sorts of corners and pockets, corporations, friends of friends. Yeah, it's a busy job when you're not running the country and you're wasting and shoveling Canadians' tax dollars into places they shouldn't be. So next up, we got this article here on the counter signal. It says Canadians outraged over immigrants. This word, I can't say that word. I can't say the P word as well. Dropping hot corals on the beaches. That's how we're going to describe this. Apparently, immigrants have been digging in the sand and letting loose the goose and then burying it, which is disgusting. That's not what we do in this country. That should never happen, ever, because that's gross. People are wanting to enjoy the beaches. So apparently this happening on Wasaga Beach, which is north of Toronto.
The people pooping on the beach, like that's what they do back home. We are not back home. We are in Canada. As a local, I refuse to let my kids dig in the sand on Beach 1. And you guys are saying all the tents are gone? No, they're not. No, they're fucking not. The beach is full of tents. Full. And this is not including in the side areas of the beach. There is little treed areas there that is like mini forest, but it's cleared. So people can put up camp there. That is where they're still 100% doing it. And they are still 100% doing it on the beach, but more discreetly. It is still happening. This is nothing that's going to change. People with that mentality will not change it. So people need to stop arguing with me and acting like this isn't happening. This is not just 3 years ago. This is today. This is this week. This is still happening. The tents are still up. The people are still coming.
If someone sees it, they need to film it. We need to send it in and get people charged. That's what's got to happen here. We can't have people dropping hot ones in the sand. That's disgusting. Next up, we got this clip here of Don Cherry sending money to foreigners in 1990. CBC interview.
I'm sick and tired of Canada kowtowing to the rest of the world. I heard a politician say, we have to be careful because the rest of the world loves us. No wonder they love us. We're weak. We're spineless wimps. And foreign aid, if you want to get into that, here we got people dying. Here we got people dying for want of beds, and we're giving money to the foreigners. No way. It'd be Canada first and Canada only. That's what I am, a nationalist. I'm going to start a new power, the nationalist. Whether I'm dangerous, I just say what I think. And it's the way I think. You could say it's bigotry if you want. I don't think it is. I'm pro-Canadian, more so than I'm anti-Soviet or anti-Swede. I wish more Canadians were like me. I'm sick and tired of Canada.
Yeah, that's a good take there. Don Cherry. Yeah, I mean, we're saying the exact same thing today, but it's probably much worse today than it was back then. We got people sleeping in the streets, yet Trudeau just announced $500 million more to Ukraine. Trudeau doesn't care about the Canadians on the street. Yeah, we all get it. The conflict over there sucks, but when are we going to take care of our own? I'd be willing to bet that this is how most people that were Canadian citizens prior to 2015 feel. What a beauty, always telling it like it is. In Don we trust. Next up, we got an interesting clip here with Jordan Peterson and this guy, Dr. Patrick Moore, co-founder of GREENPEACE.
The difference between the temperature 200 years ago and the temperature now, and you going to this 1.5 degrees and the earth is going to burn up or whatever, that's less than between breakfast and lunch everywhere in the world. 1.5 degrees Celsius. It is so stupidly ridiculous to say that a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global atmospheric temperature is going to be a disaster. As a matter of fact, it will open up vast areas of farmland that were too cold before. In the Eocene thermal maximum, the temperature was at least 5 to 7 degrees Celsius warmer than it is now, maybe even more. And at the same time, CO2 was going in the exact opposite direction than the whole of the temperature was. And that you can see that in the graphs, that there is no clear relationship.
That is an interesting take coming from co-founder of Greenpeace. Let's see what the people have to say. It is stupidity, ridiculous to say that we have had a 1.5 degree increase in temperature since 1980. This based on the claim that we know what the precise average global temperature was in 1895, which is preposterous. Yeah, we really don't know. They pull core samples and all that kind of stuff, but it gives kind of a general outline of what has happened in the past. You'll hear non-scientists call what he says dangerous lies. They're the ones who spread the dangerous lies. It's probably all fabricated to stop Russia being the greatest farmland the earth has ever seen. That's interesting. Yeah, so I mean, if it gets warmer, Russia's got all that land and something that becomes fertile farmland. It's an interesting idea there. Next up, we got this posted by Sean Fraser. He's boasting about building co-op housing, giving money to Cody's Place. These guys have completely lost their mind.
This is Cody's Place, an awesome affordable housing initiative that got off the ground in my hometown of Victor County, Nova Scotia. It was made possible by a serious investment of two levels of government coming together to provide homes for dozens of families in need.
Cody's Place in New Glasgow received much-needed funding from both the federal and provincial governments.
Now, sadly, projects like this are in short supply right across the country. We stepped up with new investments in the recent federal budget to build more affordable housing projects like Cody's Place in every region of the country. And I'm really excited because over the next few weeks, we're going to see projects rolled out. So keep your eyes peeled because there's going to be lots of news. And I hope you're going to see community projects going ahead in every part of the country, including yours.
I'm sure Sean Fraser lives in a nice, big, beautiful house, and then he's pushing these, whatever you want to call this, motel-style co-op housing. Sure, if you got no housing, this is fine. But I mean, most Canadians are striving to have a white picket fence and a yard and a house. This isn't the solution. The solution is to make it so builders can build, they make money doing that, and housing prices aren't off the charts expensive. But once again, Sean Fraser with another failed policy. Look in the comments here. Housing has literally come to a complete halt. Yeah, It's too expensive. The building materials are too expensive. Nobody wants to live in motels. That's exactly what I just said. Will that include the $9 million condos in NYC? So if you didn't see that, the Trudeau Liberals bought a $9 million condo for the former CTV host who's now the Canadian ambassador to whatever. You can't even plant trees. Define Canadians in this context. The comments are pretty savage in here. We got this clip going around with Pierre Poilievre at this Prime Talk. I can't find the source of this, so all I got is this clip, but this is absolutely hilarious.
That is only your party which is saying that they voted against the bill and they don't want to support this bill C-381. What is the reason why they are not supporting it?
Because Justin Trudeau is a wacko.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay.
That's the answer. You have a wacko for a prime minister.
That is only...
It's so like deadpan. It's just straight. Just this is hilarious. I don't know who this guy is or what this interview is, but this Pierre is just an absolute legend. It's like he's able to put a little bit. I don't know if he's intentional trying to put in some comedy there, but that's hilarious. Next up, we got this clip here where Jagmeet's basically asked about polling his support from Trudeau and calling an election.
Well, either way, we're ready. We're getting close to an election. Election is scheduled for the by law election date is going to be in 2025. So either way, we're close to an election. We want people to know the choice. That choice is really important. We'll be ready to find an election whenever that happens. And we want people to know what their choices are.
Jagmeet is just holding on for dear life for that golden pension. He sees that $2.3 million in his eyes. He's like, yeah, it's just a year and it's close. It's why call it now when I can get a golden pension in 7 months from now? This guy is all about himself. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. Got this interesting post here by Red Pill Rick. It says, you might not know this yet, but the crash is happening right now. Deleveraging in Canada started in 2022. And it doesn't appear to be slowing down. This is exactly what happened in the US, leading up to and during the GFC. Home prices collapsed as Americans deleveraged. Canadians are in a more precarious position, though, as debt loads exceed the US peak by over 25% relative to incomes, and many are refinancing this debt from near zero rates. The only thing that allowed the US housing market to recover was ZIRP and massive QE. And the same is true for Canada today. The other problem today is that inflation is sticky to ZIRP and QE, might not even be a viable option without risking a second wave of inflation. This does not bode well for Canada. And for those wondering, ZIRP is zero interest rate policy and QE is quantitative easing. So if we look at this, we've got Canadian credit market debt to disposable income. And you can see this, yes, dropping off a cliff. If we look at Canada's GDP, it's the same thing. You go back to 2015, it's right there. Canada's GDP is in line with it. So this is still a little bit back from that. But I mean, these numbers correlate quite well with Canada's GDP. So we'll see if the bubble bursts as he is predicting. With inflation and lack of housing supply, why would Canadian housing even drop in price? So some people pushing back here. He says because people won't be able to afford their mortgages after refinancing or they lose their job. I mean, it's true. Like there's a lot of mortgages. I think it was like 60-something% that's coming up for renewal in the next few years. There's a lot. And when people see the new sticker prices, they'll sell their place instead. And a lot of these people will then realize, oh, we can't afford to live in Canada and then move to another country like America or wherever. When you can't repay the bank, you're in trouble. When everyone can't repay the bank's in trouble. I don't think Ontario is paying their carbon tax. Something to note about this water too, this is not healthy water, this is brown water. I'm not talking just the color brown. You might call this the number 2 water. So if you do find yourself in this situation, you need to be very careful around this water. I saw a report on it and apparently, yeah, the bypass system, when the water treatment plant gets overrun with too much rainwater, they go through the bypass and the brown water just gets pushed right through and ends up here. So that, folks, is what happens when you have an old system that isn't upgraded properly and you end up with too much rain. You get number 2 water just floating around everywhere. So we got this post here and yeah, I mean, look at the prices here. $4.49 for a can of Chef Boyardee. That's absolutely nuts. If you guys are really struggling in prices, go to Dollar Tree, go to Dollarama. Dollar stores sell a lot of this time. It's the exact same food. It's not even the dollar store brand or whatever weird brand. It's this stuff. It's just half the price. It's like less than half the price. I think at some point, if we can get people actually shopping at Dollar Tree and Dollarama and all the dollar stores and not going to all these, Loblaws, Metro, wherever, they start thinking twice, oh, Dollarama is now selling a crap ton of food. Uh-oh. Because we have to question, why does Dollarama sell the exact same thing, rice crackers, rice cakes, for $1.25, $1.50, where all these other big stores will sell it for $3 or $3.50? That's the question here, because clearly they have the same margins on that food. Thanks for watching the end of the video here. Let me know what you guys think about Justin Trudeau being questioned on his Achilles heel and imposter syndrome. Justin Trudeau is an imposter, so I'm not surprised because of being a narcissist, his response to that. But let me know what you guys think down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the thumbs up. Be sure to ring the notification bell, get notified of all my videos. Big thanks to all the channel members and people donating. We're gonna keep fighting for freedom, and I'll see you guys in the next one.